Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So today we're just going to have a quick screencast on focusing really to try to help you with one particular type of essay question that you're going to come across in our AP class. So if you look here, there's really four major types of questions that they could ask. Now, when I say types of questions, I don't mean really like long response question or DBQ. So there's two different styles of question. You get a long response question on the AP exam and you get a DBQ question on the AP exam. What I mean here is like within, let's say, the long response, there's different types of questions that they ask. So sometimes they ask continuity and change type question, a cause and effect type of question, multiple causes, which is the essay question that we're going to take a look at today, and multiple effects questions. These are very similar, multiple causes and multiple effects. So like the tips that I give you for like a multiple causes type or style question can also apply to multiple effects. So we're going to focus on multiple causes today. I'm going to give you guys some samples of like what we should, I guess, be shooting for thesis statements, how to interpret the question, and what the question really means. So it's going to be a relatively short screencast because it's just focused on this one type of essay question that you're going to come across. So to give you guys a sample question, so we're going to use one that we've been kind of exposed to a little bit. So this is from homework. Evaluate the relative importance of the causes of migration to the British colonies from 1607 to 1754. So it's asking you about reasons for people coming to the British colonies in this particular time period. So every essay question always gives you a time period, and then which you want to kind of stay within those time parameters. And in this case, they're saying evaluate the relative importance of the causes of migration. Okay, so reasons people are coming to the British colonies. Now, what we're going to start with is actually, I think, a pretty common mistake that is made by students. And some of you guys may have made this mistake. So we want to try to avoid this mistake on our essay that we're writing coming up pretty soon. So I think when students see a question like this, in their mind, they change it to a much easier question. So what students often will see, so this is the question, evaluate the relative importance of the causes of migration to the British colonies from 1607 to 1754. That's a relatively complex question. What a lot of students will do is they'll change it to this in their mind, and then they'll answer this question in their essay. Describe the causes of migration to the British colonies from 1607 to 1754. That's similar, but if you do that, you made it much more simple than what the question is really asking you. So like if you tried to answer this question here, all you're really going to do is kind of like tell me about reasons for why people came to the British colonies, which is, you're missing, I guess, the AP level of the question here. You're missing the analytical part of it, what makes this question a little bit more challenging. So to give you guys a sample, if you change this question and you kind of like in your mind were just answering, oh, what are the causes of people coming to the British colonies? You might end up with a thesis like this. Settlers came to the British colonies to gain land for cash crop development, to pursue religious freedom, and to participate in representative government set up in the colonies. This is a very common thesis that I might see from students. And essentially what you're doing here is you're just kind of like saying like, hey, all of these were reasons that people came. You list them out, right? And you kind of like set yourself up like, oh, this will be my first body paragraph. This is going to be my second body paragraph. Representative governments will be my third. These were all reasons that people came. Now, you're kind of addressing the question, but you're really missing the point of what they're asking you here. So you're making it much too basic, much too simple. This is more of like a Regents level type question where they might ask you, hey, describe the reasons for people coming to, the British colonies in a particular time period. So to make this question, I think what really they're asking you have to go back to the question itself. So what are they really asking you? They're asking you, the key here is this. Evaluate the relative importance of the causes. So like all you did if you did that is you kind of just listed out the reasons that they came. They want you to evaluate which causes are more important than other causes and why. So it's implied that there's multiple reasons for why people came to the British colonies. What they want you to determine is like, okay, which causes were the biggest? Which were the most important? Why were they the most important? What about these other causes that are secondary? Why are they not as important as these causes? That's what you have to address in your essay. and it starts from the thesis statement. So the thesis statement is the key to the whole essay. If you have a good quality thesis statement, you set yourself up to write good body paragraphs and to really analyze it well. So to give you guys some better samples, I think here, so that's like a descriptive one I showed you, which is not what we're shooting for. We don't want that type of thesis. You want more of an analytical thesis. So I'm just going to share with you guys a couple analytical thesis statements and just break them down for you as to like why they're a little bit better, because they really do address the question here. So this one, the desire to establish religious safe havens based on Puritan and Quaker values was the primary driving factor behind many colonies in the New England and Middle colonies. But economic factors such as the desire for land to participate in cash crop agriculture drove migration in the southern colonies. The attraction of participating in democratic governments played a secondary role in attracting migrants, but became a key component of colonial culture as the time period progressed. So there's a couple things about this sample thesis that makes it pretty good. So the first one is that it's much more, I guess, detailed in like specifics than the first one that I gave you. So it has a little bit more specifics as it references the Puritans, the Quakers. The other thing that I like about it is that it focuses on specific regions. So it says like this was a driving factor in New England and the Middle colonies. So that's a complex way of looking at it. And then it says in the South, it was more driven by desire for land and cash crop agriculture. Now, I think the key here, though, so that's nice. That's a good way of doing it, like looking at these different regions. But I think the key that makes this perfect for this style of question, for the multiple causes style of question, is that this first sentence, so they have a two-sentence thesis, which is probably an easy way to set up a question like this. And a lot of these questions is to have a two-sentence thesis. Is the first sentence is talking about what they believe are the major primary causes and why. So you have to have the why part. What is the major causes and why or how are they the major causes? So they're saying it influenced different particular regions, but those are the big causes in each of those particular regions. Now, this second sentence is key, right? Because the second sentence says like, hey, this participating in democratic governments, that was a secondary reason for people coming. And they don't really say necessarily why it was a secondary reason. They say more that it later on becomes important for like colonial culture. So that's kind of an interesting take on it. But I think the key here is that they've addressed what are the primary and secondary, and they talk to either why or how those things are primary and secondary. So when you're answering a question like this is what you want to be able to do. And it starts with your thesis statement, because this nicely sets up body paragraphs, right? Just like our descriptive thesis, in a very simple way, set up body paragraphs. Like this will be body paragraph 1, cash crop development. Religious freedom would be body paragraph 2. Representative government would be body paragraph 3. This also sets up body paragraphs, right? First body paragraph is going to be about the New England and Middle colonies and religion playing a primary role. Second body paragraph is going to be about the Southern colonies and the economic factors and cash crops playing a role. The third body paragraph is going to be about democratic governments and people wanting to participate in that, but why that's not as important as these other two. And that is the key, right? That's the complexity, which makes it really an AP answer and an AP style question, okay? I want to give you one more sample, and then we're going to kind of leave it for today. So second sample kind of focuses on different things, but has the same mentality, same ideas. So this second sample thesis says, the opportunity to obtain cheap land influenced colonial migration the most by leading to the system of indentured servitude on plantations and immigration to the back country by Scots, Irish, and German settlers. So again, it has some specifics, right? They continue. Trade in coastal cities played a less important role because a comparative few colonists were merchants or lived in cities compared to those that were engaged in farming. So again, it has those components, right? It has what is the primary. So they're saying primarily it's cheap land, both through indentured servitude and then immigrants wanting to get land in the backcountry settlement. So they kind of break it down into two areas. That's the biggest reason, according to this person. Secondary is to participate in trade. And they give reasons why they think that's secondary there, because most people are not engaged in trade, right? It has specifics with the Scots, Irish, and German immigrants, colonial migrants. So I think that, again, it sets you up for 3 body paragraphs again, right? You could talk about the prevalence of indentured servitude and like the desire for land and how that led to it in the first body paragraph. You could focus on the backcountry in the second body paragraph. And the third body paragraph, you can focus on your less important, reason for why migrants came to the New World. So hopefully this kind of helps you a little bit with your essay that you're writing coming up pretty soon. Because remember, it's again the same style question, right? It's a multiple causes question. So you want to be able to address primary causes, why they're primary, and secondary causes and why they're secondary. And if you're able to do that in your thesis, the rest of the essay is going to flow very, very nicely. All right, guys, I'll see you back in class. Have a good rest of your weekend.